guys, it's Miss Carrie. I hope you're having a good day. My day just got much better because I get to spend some time with you. We got some good stories today. We got a good song, good finger play. Should we get started? I think we should. I'm looking forward to it. I hope you are too. Clap your hands if you love stories. Clap your hands, I know you do. I'm so glad that we could be together. Glad to share a story time with you. I'm going to tell you the story of the fox and the hedgehog. Do you know what a hedgehog is? It's a little tiny animal, maybe the size of a guinea pig, sometimes a little bigger, sometimes a little smaller, and it's got prickly points all over it. Well, this particular fox was pretty smart, and he knew it. He knew how smart he is. But one day, and I don't know how he pulled it off, he managed to get into the farmer's poultry yard where all the chickens were. He was not supposed to be there, but he found a way in anyway, and he ate his fill there until he was satisfied and stuffed to the gills, and then he crept out. Well, it came to pass that a little later that he was hungry again, and on his way back to the poultry yard, he passed his friend Hedgehog, and he said, "Would you like to come with me? I'm going over to the poultry yard to have some dinner." And the hedgehog said, "How are you going to get in there?" The fox said, "I am so smart. I've done this before. You can trust me. If you come with me, you'll see." And the hedgehog said, "Well, maybe I'm not as smart as you, but if you got in there before, what makes you think they're going to let you in there again?" And the fox said, "Just you trust my brains. I will get us in there. I have a whole bag of tricks." Well, they made their way to the poultry yard, and they saw the fence around. And the hedgehog said, "Now what?" The fox said, "Come with me. I'll show you how I got in the last time." And he found his way to the path in, and he crept under the fence along with the hedgehog. But of course, the farmer was not as foolish as the fox had thought, and there was a pit, a deep hole, right inside where he had gotten in, and the fox and the hedgehog fell with a thump to the bottom of the pit. And as they lay there groaning, the fox said, "Oh, now what are we going to do?" And the hedgehog said, "I don't know about you, but I feel like I'm going to be sick and throw up." And the fox said, "Oh, no, you don't. We can't have that too. That's the last thing I want right now." And so he picked up the hedgehog with his mouth, and the hedgehog curled up into a tiny ball, like hedgehogs can do. And the fox stood with his paws on the side of the pit and climbed his neck up as far as he could, and he tossed the hedgehog up over the edge onto the ground. And the fox said, Now, how am I going to get out? How are you going to help me?" And the hedgehog said, "Well, I thought that you were so smart. What happened to all of your bag of tricks now?" And the fox said, "I don't have anything left. What could I do? You have to help me." And the hedgehog said, "Well, I don't have very many tricks, but I do have one. You are going to lie down on the ground and play dead." And the fox said, "How will that help?" He said, "Just listen to me. You're going to lie down there on the ground and play dead. And when the farmer comes along and looks down, he'll say, 'Oh, yuck, a dead fox.' And he'll throw you out." The fox didn't know if it was going to work or not, but he trusted the hedgehog. So he lay down on the ground. And soon enough, the farmer came along and saw what he thought was a dead fox on the ground, and he was disgusted. But he got a shovel and he picked up the fox and he tossed it over the fence where the hedgehog was waiting. And the fox said, "I suppose you were right. It really only took one trick after all, didn't it?" And after that, the fox and the hedgehog were best friends. Do you like to color? We'll do a finger play today about our colors. Show me 5. 5 little crayons colored a scene. Yellow, blue, orange, red, and green. "Look," said yellow, "my sun is bright." Blue said, "Great, my river's just right." Orange said, "Flowers, I'll draw something new." Red said, "Great, I'll add some too." "Sigh," said Green, I'm tired of trees and grass and bushes and tiny leaves. I think I'll draw a big green cloud. A big green cloud should be allowed. Can you draw a cloud? The crayons all smiled and didn't think twice. A green cloud sounded rather nice. Let's do that one more time. 5 little crayons colored a scene. Yellow, blue, orange, red, and green. Look, said Yellow, my sun is bright. Great, said Blue, my river's just right. Orange said, flowers, I'll draw something new. Red said, great, I'll add some too. Sigh, said Green, I'm tired of trees and grass and bushes and tiny leaves. I think I'll draw a big green cloud. A big green cloud should be allowed. The crayons all smiled and didn't think twice. A green cloud sounded rather nice. Now I'm going to tell you the story of Jack and the Beanstalk. Once upon a time, there was a little boy named Jack who lived with his mother in a small town in a little cottage. And Jack and his mother were not very wealthy. In fact, they were quite poor. They didn't have much money to buy food, and the food that they could grow didn't grow very well at all. And times got harder and harder for them until finally the mother said, Jack, there's nothing left but that you take our cow, Milky White, into town and sell her, or else you and I shall starve. Jack was very sad because he loved his cow, but he knew that he had no choice but to do what his mom said. And so he tossed a rope around Milky White's neck and took her out of the barnyard and started walking her toward the center of town to sell her. Along the way, he met a man who he didn't know, and the man said, Good day, young man. Where are you off to today? And Jack said, I'm going into the center of town to sell Milky White, our cow, so that we can buy food. And the man said, it's a very good-looking cow, I can see. What would you say to making a deal with me? I will give you 5 beans in exchange for your cow. And Jack said, well, that sounds like a very good deal for you. A cow is worth much more than 5 beans, sir. The man said, but I haven't told you the best part. These are not ordinary beans. These are magic beans. And Jack was interested, very interested now. And he said, that sounds like a much better deal. I will trade my cow for 5 magic beans. And so the man took the rope and put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 beans into Jack's hand. And Jack quickly ran back home to his mother. The mother said, you sold the cow very quickly. How much did you make? And Jack said, oh, mother, I got something much better than money. I got 5 magic beans. And the mother was so upset. She said, Jack, how are we to survive now? That cow was supposed to make us money so we could buy food. And she sent him to bed without any dinner at all. And as for the beans, she opened the window and threw them out in her anger. And Jack was so sad that he could hardly sleep that night. But when he woke up the next morning and looked out his window, he saw something very strange. Where there before had been a garden with a few scraggly plants that didn't seem to want to grow, now there was an enormous beanstalk. And when I say enormous, I mean that it stretched all the way up into the sky, so high that he couldn't see the top of it. Well, Jack was fascinated. He ran outside because now he knew those beans had been magic, certainly. And when he got to the beanstalk, he put a hand on it and looked way, way up. And his curiosity got the best of him, so he started to climb up the beanstalk to see how high it really was. And he climbed higher and higher and higher until his head poked through the clouds, and he saw that above the clouds was a giant house. And I don't mean just a house with a lot of rooms. I mean a giant house with a door that was 10 times as high as an ordinary door. And so Jack made his way across the cloud to the door, and he pushed it open. And thankfully, it wasn't closed all that firmly, because otherwise he never would have been able to get it open. And he crept inside, and there was a woman there, a giant woman who was rolling out some dough on the table. And when she saw Jack, she jumped, startled. She said, "Young man, what are you doing here?" And Jack said, "I don't know. I was just looking." And the woman said, "Well, you'd better hurry and hide. My husband eats little boys like you, and he's coming right now." So she quickly took Jack over to where there was an oven door that was open. The oven was not on. She hustled Jack into the oven and closed the door just in time, because the giant, her husband, came stomping through the front door, and he said, "Fee, fi, fo, fum, I smell the blood of an Englishman. Be he alive or be he dead, I'll grind his bones to make my bread." And the woman, who knew where Jack was, certainly said, "I don't know what you think you're smelling. That must be your dinner from last night. Sit down right now. I'm making bread for you to eat." And so the giant sat, and she finished making the bread, and he ate his fill. And then the giant took a bag of coins out from his desk and began counting them. And eventually, as he counted, his head nodded, and he fell asleep. At which point Jack popped out of the oven, carefully, quietly, ran across the floor, and he couldn't help himself but to reach up and grab for the bag of coins, which was somewhat of a sack for him. And he dragged it across the floor and made it out the door and climbed down the beanstalk. And he showed his mother the coins, and she was amazed. The next day, Jack found himself curious again, and he climbed back up the beanstalk. And he made his way into the house again, where the woman was. And she said, "You? Again?" And Jack said, "Yes, I'm still interested to see what was up here." The woman said, "I would have thought you would have learned better. And the last time you were here, my husband happened to be missing some of his coins." And Jack said, "Well, maybe I might be able to help you find them, but first, I think your husband's coming. You better hide me." So the woman quickly hid him in the oven again as the giant came stomping through the door and said, "Fee, fi, fo, fum, I smell the blood of an Englishman. Be he alive or be he dead, I'll grind his bones to make my bread." And again, his wife calmed him down, told him he must be imagining things, and fed him his dinner, all while Jack hid and watched. And this time after dinner, the giant reached over into a small cage in the corner of the room and took out a goose, a very large goose. And he pet the goose on the head and said, "Lay, goose, lay." And just like that, the goose laid an egg, a golden egg that shined as bright as anything. After the giant fell asleep, of course, you knew what Jack did. He crept out of the oven and made his way toward the door, and along the way, picked up that goose with both his arms and ran for the beanstalk, slid all the way down. His mother was amazed when she saw what that goose could do, and she thought, "We will never starve again." Jack was careful for a while. He knew that he couldn't go back up there right away, but eventually he couldn't help himself. And this time, when he climbed up, he knew he couldn't go anywhere near the woman, because surely at this time she would turn him in. She wouldn't hide him. So he went into the house and hid from her, this time not in the oven, but under the rug in the corner. Well, when the giant came in and sniffed again and said, "Fee, fi, fo, fum, I smell the blood of an Englishman. Be he alive or be he dead, I'll grind his bones to make my bread," his wife immediately cast her eyes toward the oven door, and she said, "If you're smelling an Englishman, I know where he is." And she quietly went over to the oven and threw open the door. but there was no Jack. And she and the giant searched the rest of the room, but thankfully they did not look at the rugs, and so they did not find him. At which point, the woman threw up her hands and said, well, you must be imagining it for real. And so they set about having their dinner. And then after dinner, the giant took from the corner a harp, a beautiful golden harp with a woman's head carved into the top. And he said, play, harp, play. And the harp began to pluck her own strings and play the most beautiful music. Jack was amazed by what he saw. And eventually the giant fell asleep listening to the music, at which point Jack crept out from the rugs, started making his way to the door, and made a grab for the harp. But the harp, unlike the bag of coins or the goose, woke and yelled, Master, master, someone is stealing me! And the giant woke up, and he saw Jack with the harp in his hands, and he roared an angry roar and started to chase him. Well, Jack ran as fast as he could, and he made it to the beanstalk and slid the whole way down. But he could hear the giant coming. He could hear those footsteps shaking the clouds, and he could feel the beanstalk shaking under his hands. And he called, Mother, Mother, bring me an axe, bring me an axe. His mother came running out of the house, bringing Jack an axe, and he took that axe and he swung, and he swung, and he swung, and he chopped the beanstalk, and it fell with a thump. And the giant fell with an even louder thump. And that was the end of the giant. But Jack and his mother, and the golden coins, and the goose that laid the eggs, and the harp, never had to worry about being hungry ever again. And they lived happily ever after. All right, today we're going to sing the song, She'll Be Coming Round the Mountain. You might know this one. And we're going to use rattles or shakers to play along. If you don't happen to have a rattle or a shaker or a cat toy or anything you can use to make that kind of a noise, I gotta show you, it's really easy to come up with one at home. Here, I just used an empty toilet paper tube, and I put some wax or parchment paper on the ends with some rubber bands, and inside you could put dried beans, you could put anything in that makes a rattle. I put dry oatmeal in mine, and it makes a pretty good sound. So, if you don't have something, you can make something of your own. Let's go ahead and sing, shall we? She'll be coming round the mountain when she comes, toot, toot. She'll be coming round the mountain when she comes, toot, toot. She'll be coming round the mountain, she'll be coming round the mountain, she'll be coming round the mountain when she comes, toot, toot. Pretty good. She'll be driving 6 white horses when she comes, whoa, back. She'll be driving 6 white horses when she comes, whoa, back. She'll be driving 6 white horses, she'll be driving 6 white horses, she'll be driving 6 white horses when she comes, whoa, back. She'll be wearing pink pajamas when she comes, scratch, scratch, they itch. She'll be wearing pink pajamas when she comes, scratch, scratch. She'll be wearing pink pajamas, she'll be wearing pink pajamas, she'll be wearing pink pajamas when she comes, scratch, scratch. We will all go out to meet her when she comes. Hey, hey! We will all go out to meet her when she comes. Hey, hey! We will all go out to meet her. We will all go out to meet her. We will all go out to meet her when she comes. Hey, hey! We will all have chicken and dumplings when she comes. Yum, yum. We will all have chicken and dumplings when she comes. Yum, yum. We will all have chicken and dumplings. We will all have chicken and dumplings. We will all have chicken and dumplings when she comes. Yum, yum. She will have to sleep with Grandma when she comes. She will have to sleep with Grandma when she comes. Snore, snore. She will have to sleep with Grandma. She will have to sleep with Grandma. She will have to sleep with Grandma when she comes. Snore, snore. Well, I hope you liked those stories. I liked telling them. And I am looking forward already to seeing you again next week. This is the best part of my week, I think, getting to spend some time with you guys. Should we get in a good stretch? Let's do it. Let me see you guys. Reach for the ceiling. Oh, higher. and touch the floor. Stand up again. Let's do some more. Touch your head. And now your knees. Up to your shoulders. Like this, you see. Reach for the ceiling. And touch the floor. That's all there is. There isn't any more. I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.